Hold it now.
You're listening to the Lions Den podcast with your host, Mike Spanky Stoff.
What's up? Thank you for tuning into the Lions Den podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stoff, better known as Spanky. I'm a 1994 Northwest High School graduate and, in the famous words of Adam Sandler in the award-winning movie The Wedding Singer, I have the microphone so you listen to every last word I have to say. You want to get involved in the show, email myself at the lionsdenpodcast32@gmail.com and subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher, and now available on the Amazon Music app. Please like, follow, and share what we're doing at the Lions Den Podcast on all the social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you got a photo of the day, send it my way, please. This week, it's a little bit different. This week, the Lions Den Podcast welcomes a public address announcer special. We welcome Tim Arnold, Mike KROMER, and Jeff Whitener. Gentlemen, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Been a nice drive down for me.
It was. You had, so in your 2-hour trip.
It wasn't quite that. Which, by the way, I thought about texting you guys on the way down here. I thought there was a limo provided for me today.
So the budgeting for the Lions Den podcast right now, we're in a standstill position.
Okay, with COVID and everything, and I know it's the summertime, so I know there might be a little bit of lull in the budget.
Yeah, the food budget is the most important thing,
right.
And being that you have connections with Mr. Jeff Whitener here in the La Pachinga, in Herculaneum.
Well,
it's
we've got this place, a good pizza place next door, so we're set for the night.
I'm a big guy. Right. I like to eat. Am I right or wrong? Right or wrong?
Sounds good to me.
So what I'd like to do to start off everything real quick is just we'll go around the room, introduce yourselves and your current PA positions, and then we'll dive a little deeper a little bit later. Tim, lead us off, will you?
Sounds good. I'm Tim Arnold from HILLSBORO High School. Do all levels of football at HILLSBORO. Do basketball, guys and girls. Wrestling, softball, and a little bit of baseball. So a little bit of everything. Anytime they stick a mic in front of me, I'm ready to go.
Similar to him, that my name is Mike KROMER, by the way, representing Francis Howell Central High School as well as the GAC and St. Charles County in its entirety. But do much, I would say most of my announcing over at Howell Central High School, where I have a great relationship with the athletic director there, Scott Harris. Do all of their football, soccer, basketball, softball, wrestling. Right now during the summer, out in O'Fallon, doing the O'Fallon Hoots. In the past, I've also done a lot of work with Maryville University, the Missouri State High School Activities Association, some of their championship events, and then the River City Rascals when they were in O'Fallon as well. So before, my PA time, had time in radio as Jeff did as well. In fact, coming up in August, it'll be 30 years since I started announcing. So,
wow,
I'm trying to track down the exact date, and I've contacted the St. Louis Post-Dispatch because I'm trying to find the 1991 high school football season schedule because those were my first games that I ever did right out of high school. So
you've been doing it for a while.
Long time.
Nice. That's awesome.
Goodness gracious.
Jeff, how about you?
I am. My name is Jeff Whitener, and I am a professional loud talker. And that encompasses quite a few things. I primarily am the voice of Jefferson R7 High School athletics and Jefferson College athletics, and those athletics include football, baseball, softball, basketball, volleyball, track and field. I'm sure I'm missing something. I also do PA work in the summertime for the Festus Post 253 American Legion. Kind of helps connect, the dots and get me through the summer to where I can make this a year-round thing. I also have my own media company, as Mike said, with an experience in radio. Have my own media company, provide trivia hosting nights, complete packages for that, wedding receptions, you name it. Anywhere that I need to be with a microphone in front of me, I'm happy to help out.
It is clear as day to me that my resume is way down here, and all of you guys are way up top. I mean, good.
That's just because we're older. That's the problem.
I'm 45. I mean, I'm old. I mean, I got gray hair and everything. But here's the thing. Before I want to address the elephant in the room, I almost want to take Mike KROMER to like the Hallmark aisle in a Walgreens or whatever, and just listen to him read cards to me. That is a silky voice, man.
I appreciate it.
That is nice.
Well, and again, like you and I were talking beforehand, Mike. You know, you and I have known each other for quite a long time.
Yes.
You used to hang out with my younger brother in high school.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, it was always, well, from a pretty early age, was going to be all about sports announcing. I knew my athletic talents, they weren't terrible, but I knew that they weren't going to go beyond high school, most likely. And so I started thinking about ways that I could get involved, stay involved in sports. I was also the type of kid growing up that if I was playing, even on my own out in the backyard or out in the street, you know, with my brothers, I was announcing.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing play-by-play.
Similar background.
Right.
That's cool.
And so when it came to the point where early in high school that I knew I was not going anywhere as far as an athletic career as a player, I was like, what else do I want to do? And I always loved, I mean, I'm sure I think all of us grew up in the St. Louis area, right? Mm-hmm. I always loved listening to Jack Buck growing up, as well as Dan Kelly from the Blues back in the 80s, and then Ken Wilson eventually with the Blues as well. I always had a fascination with sports announcing. And so when I started mentioning to that idea to some people in my teen years, they were like, "Oh my gosh, you'd be great at it," you know. So I appreciate the compliment.
I almost just want to listen to him the whole time. I'm getting he's a good-looking man. I'm getting lost in his eyes, so he's good for the camera and the voice. I don't know if you.
Okay, I don't know what my head size was when I walked in. But it's like growing.
I give credit where credit is due.
Man,
There you go.
Jim Powers, where are you to comment right now on our Facebook page on this about Mr. KROMER?
I'm telling you. All right, I got to address the elephant in the room, and I'm not making fun of my size, but it's not normal to have Northwest Pride sitting next to Hillsboro Pride. Now, Mr. Arnold, we square off. We're friends now. But come August 27th, I will make the trip to the borough.
Very good. Very good. I hope you come visit me in the booth. We could share some responsibilities that night.
I tell you what, if you need a restroom break, I might be the guy because I've been there and I know what it is. So, okay, so since we go play Northwest first, Hillsboro, August 27th at Hillsboro, take me inside the stadium of Hillsboro. What's it like as far as an entrance standpoint? Take me inside Hillsboro. So, do you guys have a name for the stadium? I don't know if you do.
No, it's just Hillsboro Hawk Stadium.
It's Tim Arnold Stadium.
Well, not. No, definitely not. Our stadium is very welcoming. I feel like our district does a great job of welcoming our guests for no matter what kind of event that we're hosting. We do our best to create a lively atmosphere to give folks entertainment as well as the competition that's happening on the field. So when you get there, hopefully, well, obviously that night you're going to see an awful lot of blue and white.
Yes.
Because we'll be wearing it on both sides of the ball that night. But you are going to see the Hillsboro community come alive on Friday nights because that's what we do. You know, it's small town USA, and Friday night football is what it's all about. So you will see our dance team prepping. You'll see our cheerleaders. You'll see. And a lot of this stuff happens at every school in the area, but it feels like the entire town of Hillsboro shows up, and it's a real special thing on Friday nights. I am honored to be a part of it. It's electric. Whether we're winning or losing, our fans do a great job of encouraging our players. We pride ourselves in the sportsmanship that we have at Hillsboro High School, and hopefully as a guest you feel welcomed, and we have a good time. And at the end of the night, the home team hopefully has a little.
You feel him tiptoeing around there. He was tiptoeing getting there. Right?
That was a beautiful answer. That was a beautiful answer.
So, I'm not normally a betting person, right? But I think it would be a fun little public address announcer competition. So I'm willing to say, I'm assuming Hillsboro obviously has got like a booster club, right?
Yep.
So I'm thinking, if Hillsboro is victorious, August 27th.
Yep.
Or let's just say the loser makes some type of donation to the respected
I think that sounds like a
booster
great
program.
idea.
That way somebody is getting something out of it.
Absolutely. But here's the catch.
Okay? Are you willing? I'm willing to, even though, just only because it's blue and white. But if Northwest wins, I will provide you a shirt.
Okay.
You will go on Facebook and make it public and say, for one day, today only, I am a Northwest Lions fan.
I am willing to do that.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I'm willing to do that, because I have seen how hard our Hillsboro Hawks have been working this summer, and I will tell you right now, we are ready for you. So I am excited for that night, and I am excited to see you in a Hillsboro Hawk.
See, I thought I was going to be able to get out of that without the flip side to that, but he was quick on the draw. He's really quick on the draw.
You are going to look fantastic with a big H across your chest.
But it'll be blue and white. All right, so
It'll be blue and white either way.
So it is set. A donation to the Booster Club, opposing Booster Club, and a T-shirt, Facebook official, and the opposing.
Sounds good. I think we can do that. And I'll tell you what, I'll take it one step farther.
Oh, boy.
The Hillsboro High School band boosters do fried Twinkies, fried Oreos, fried pickles. I'm willing to throw in the fried item of your choice for the winner.
Oh, that is some good stuff.
And I'll tell you right now, I am guessing that our band boosters would probably throw that in there as a donation to our efforts. So we could probably – we got to get some food involved also.
Telling you what, hey, you
Mike,
don't have to.
how are we missing out on the food?
Well, I was just thinking if Scott Harris from Howell Central, if you guys are watching this at any point, he just mentioned fried Twinkies and stuff like that. I think we need to get that out in St. Charles County.
I think that's for a Jefferson County bet. We're set. We're good. I
Sounds
accept.
good.
I think that'd be a good time.
It'll be fun.
But I knew I had to address that, and I knew I'd had some fun with you. I actually have
Absolutely.
heard you a couple times. I haven't been to any Hillsboro games, and we'll get to it where you broadcast at the college level. I've heard you a couple times. So, Jeff, take me early days. How did you even get started in this? What led you to the point that you're at now?
Well, I was born a poor child. No. As Mike mentioned, I have a similar background as far as playing sports and calling games with my buddies in the backyard as we're playing, turning down the volume on the radio. I grew up I was born in Missouri, but I grew up in Michigan, so watching University of Michigan football, go Wolverines, and watching their games with the volume off and doing the play-by-play to a little cassette recorder that I'd received for Christmas one year. Never thought anything of it. It was fun while it lasted, childhood thing. And I became disabled in 2009 for a couple of different reasons, and no longer able to work full-time. I got more involved in my church, had a singing background, got involved in the church worship band, and then, from there, got involved in the same guys had a cover band that we did 70s rock and roll. So, got involved in that, did a lot of singing in that. I had a friend, just about that time, Jefferson R7 High School was opening up, and had a friend contact me, and she said, we really need a football PA announcer. You've got a good voice, and we would really like you to see if you would come down and give it a try. And I tried it, fell in love with it, and went on from there. That was a springboard for me to get a part-time job in the radio industry. And one thing just sort of led to another, led to me being able to go on having my own company. It led to the point now where 2 years ago I met Ray, and we've been doing live stream STL, doing play-by-play, doing color for that, and hosting shows and usually asking the questions instead of answering the questions. So that's where we're at, Mike.
It's fun, though, isn't it?
Meeting a lot of cool people.
Yeah, that's part of the job that I like. But
Yeah.
I mean, you do in this industry. You meet a lot of people in the games and wherever you're broadcasting from. Tim, take me to your early days. Why did you even?
Well,
get into this?
Very early on, it's a different direction than most guys come from, I'll tell you. I have a background in musical theater, and I was a performer all through college. When I got my first job at Hazelwood Central High School, the current PA announcer at the time had just accepted a position as a department head. He was the guy who hired me actually for the position. And when I was hired as the choir director at Hazelwood Central High School, along with that, he said, by the way, I've normally done the PA stuff here. Would you be interested in giving it a shot? And it took about 30 seconds for me to completely fall in love with the atmosphere and with being behind the microphone and with getting people fired up on Friday nights. Actually, I take that back. It wasn't Friday nights. It was Saturday afternoons up there in North County. But fell in love with it right away. Did mostly football. Did not branch out a lot from that. I was a newlywed. We started our family not too long after that. So, and you guys all know how family time goes. You know, sometimes you got to make some sacrifices. So did mostly football there for 8 years. Took some time off while the kids were young, and was actually at Hazelwood West High School and filled in for our guy there from time to time, but didn't do a whole lot at Hazelwood West. So fast forward to 6 years ago now, 2015, made the move down to Hillsboro High School and was fortunate enough to step into a place where they had a need, and that passion for announcing was reignited. And, man, it really helped me plug in with the community and get to know some people. So it was great for me to get back behind the microphone, and a great opportunity to meet people in the community and make connections with my students outside of the classroom, and, you know, just make connections with some of their parents and some of the other staff members and stuff. And I haven't looked back, man. I've loved every minute of it. Over the past few years, I've really started to branch out to other sports, and like I said earlier, anytime there's an opportunity for me to get out there and spend some time with people spreading that Hawk pride, I'm there.
He had to throw it in right at the end, didn't he?
I just slipped it in there.
Mike, Silky Smooth KROMER. Where did it begin? I know you touched on it earlier, but take me to the early days of why you got it.
Well, again, you know, I think a lot of it has to go back to just a love of Cardinal baseball primarily, listening to Jack Buck and Mike Shannon back in the day. As well as Dan Kelly back in the 1980s. My first radio job, I was all of 19 years old. In 1993, moved down to Sulphur Springs, Texas, which is about 2 hours east of Dallas. I had no money to my name, didn't know a soul. I did not last very long at all. I was home real quick. I'll just say that with my tail between my legs, more or less. It really took some time to kind of figure out what was I going to do. And then it was about maybe a year later or so, my brother-in-law at the time knew the owner of a radio station down in Houston, Missouri, which is about an hour south of Rolla, if you're familiar with that area of the state. Got into it then, the radio thing full-time. Had done PA prior to that from the high school in which I had graduated from, John F. Kennedy, which is now closed. Did that. I did the PA for them for football. The year after I had graduated in '92, and so that was really kind of my first experience, first taste of announcing. And you guys touched on a couple of things. You know, for me, number one, nothing just beats a Friday night football game.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, the atmosphere. With modern technology the way it is, and you know we're all playing music now, and you know you can really kind of custom make playlists and whatnot. The Friday night football, and then you guys talked about it, the people you meet, you know, the relationships that you establish with coaches, players, families, the community as a whole. I mean, that's what I really love about announcing in general.
Yeah. See, and I kind of fell into it by accident. When I went back and I started, I had a radio show for a hot second for like 6 months. Windsor High School's head baseball coach, Mr. Green, Coach Green, Randy Green, calls me one day and says, hey, and at the time we were living in the Windsor School District, and he says, hey, would you be interested in the Windsor public address announcers? I know you talk on the radio and you're comfortable in front of the mic. Are you good with it? Not thinking at the time, how much does it pay? And he basically, I didn't put two in. He said, who cares, dude? You're going to watch your kid play.
Well, yeah.
And I'm thinking, I'm like, Oh, you're right, dude. Yes. Where do I sign? And so I started at Windsor High School, and it led me to go over to Northwest High School. But at the time, and I don't know Mr. Jason Nockey, his current position at Windsor, I believe he's a principal over there. I walked into his office. He said, "Sit down." I said, "Yep." Okay, sat right down.
Took you back to your own
yes,
high school days,
I mean,
right?
it did. Because, I mean, I was in the – you're right, it did actually.
Set up
and
straight.
he said something to me that I still carry to this day. Now, I have an awesome boss now at Northwest High School with Jeff Taggart, and he basically said, I will fire you if you make this about you and not the kids on the field.
Oh, yeah.
I said
Absolutely.
100%, absolutely.
Right.
When you start making it a show about you and your microphone and blah, 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 I know you got a personality. I'm like, wow, this guy has done his homework. I'm in some trouble. And I went in. I said, absolutely, yes, sir, no problem whatsoever. And when we ended up moving, and then the Northwest position came open, went over to Northwest, and now I do football, basketball, which surprisingly is – I don't want to say it's my favorite, but you're
It's
right
fun.
there on the action,
It's
right?
fun. It is a lot of fun,
It is.
especially when you are right there on the front line.
Yeah.
Jeff, I know you filled in for me one night over at Maryville University, and a lot of times when I am doing Maryville University, because the college game is just a lot faster than high school for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're a higher level of playing talent, but secondly, they have the shot clock. Okay, so that does lend to a faster paced game.
Right.
A lot of times, though, as a PA announcer for basketball, I have a hard time almost keeping up because it's like, boom, somebody makes a basket, and then, boom, they're already down there.
Yeah.
And what I've thought about doing those games is, what would it have been like to do PA in a game involving Michael Jordan,
Oh, yeah.
Magic Johnson? It's like, because Maryville, Division II college basketball, and I'm like, this is pretty fast-paced.
Yeah.
What would it have been like for people like that?
Just to back up what you're saying, Mike, at that time that I was, privileged to fill in for you, coming from a background where I'm calling junior college women's basketball, and then making that leap up to calling that night. And for those not familiar, a lot of times they'll do the men's and women's games the same night. So even the women's game, the pace of play was such that it took me probably a good 5 minutes into the first quarter to really get into that rhythm that was so much faster than what I was used to.
Right.
And, like you said, you have there were several people there to help and assist and do the reads. You've got media timeouts you're dealing with and a lot of different promotional reads that you're doing at that level that you don't have at the JUCO or high school levels. But it was really fascinating, to see the difference.
Right, absolutely.
But the reason I love basketball more than anything else is you have a ringside seat to watch the antics of the coaches.
Oh, right.
And that is better than any TV show ever made.
It is.
And that's the one. I mean, I love football, but for me, football is the most pressure because there's so much going on in the booth and the coordination in the booth. But basketball, I'm kind of on my own, me and the scorekeeper and and the bookkeeper and all that stuff. And there's a little more time to just really take in some of the entertaining.
Oh yeah.
Well,
and what jumps out at me, so Northwest, it's like a big cave.
It's gigantic
it's
gymnasium.
the Lions Den, right? So
Yeah.
what jumps out at me is doing basketball is obviously being right on top of the action, but and I hope I'm not the only one. But I'll sometimes forget what I'm doing, and I'll start watching the game. I'm like, oh, nice basket. Oh, 35, But you talk about the coaches, it echoes pretty loud in there, right? So when those coaches say whatever they're going to say, whether it's clean, good, it echoes pretty loud. And sometimes I hold the mic. I leave the mic on all the time when I'm doing, but I'll hold it down. So that way it doesn't catch me saying anything. Obviously the hot mic, that's the famous thing, but I'll hold it down. But then I'll find myself, creep back up here once everybody's getting under the basket, and then the coach will say something, right back down and flip it off right quick. But you just hear the coaches, and I'm like, I know I'm not the only one that heard that in this gymnasium, and it echoes, and then everybody's kind of sitting on their hands.
The pandemic presented some interesting opportunities too,
Yes,
because there were times when you're sitting in an empty gym. So I actually met with our head basketball coach at one point and said, just so you know, I will have music to fade up during timeouts because I don't care if you're whispering or not in an empty gym. They're going to hear every word that you say. So I will make sure that I'm on standby to fade up a little bit because, and it's kind of fun to sit back. When I was young, I would sit back and go, gosh, I wonder what they say in those huddles. I wonder what they say during timeouts. Or I would see an official and a coach discussing something and go, gosh, I'd love to know what they're saying. Well, now we get to good, bad, and the ugly, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I don't know, because you have more experience than the rest of us, but I've had coaches, and it all depends where it's seating. Basketball is a sport, volleyball is a sport where you're right there, but also a lot of the baseball and softball that I do, I'm very close to the dugout as well. So I've worked out deals with coaches several times where if they want to read the riot act to their team that's not playing well, they'll give me the high sign and they'll ask me to boost the music up between innings or times out, things of that nature.
Right.
So the fans can't hear that what's going on. So it's important to get to know the coaches and be on the same page with them as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, it kind of goes into my next subject. So, like, from a day, let's stick with football. From a day to day, what is your daily responsibilities once you get there? What are you in charge of? What is expected from you from the moment you get there?
I know for me, on a Friday night game at Howell Central, I'm usually the first one in the press box that night. And so, number one, at 5:30, I hit the game clock, the 90-minute countdown leading up to the game. Usually, not always, but sometimes somebody else has started it. Then start playing music. Fairly on. The teams are going through their pregame routines out on the field. There are some, and I'm sure all of you guys have the same thing, where some pregame announcements that you guys do. I usually like to check in with coaches ahead of time to go over pronunciations. That's one thing that I'm pretty anal about is for pronunciations because, number one, if I'm not getting a name correct, you guys, I'm sure we've all been in that situation where somebody's yelling up at you, right? I just hate that. And, it is about the players out on the field.
It's the most important job we have.
It's job number one, and it drives me nuts when I hear somebody getting it wrong. Not to say that I haven't gotten it wrong. Believe me, I have, okay? We all have.
Yep.
But it's like, take some time to, check in with the coaches and ask for pronunciations. Those are, I would say my biggest, game day duties, especially on a football game.
Yeah. Tim, did you follow on the same line?
Yeah, a lot of similarities there. Getting music started, getting kind of starting to create that environment for what's about to happen that night. I always touch base with coaches on starting lineups in case there's been any changes, that kind of stuff. A lot of times for my pronunciations, I will find visiting fans.
Right.
You have fans that get there an hour early, and they are tickled to death that they get to talk about their kids, So I'll walk out and say, hey, hey, Lions fans, help me out here. How do you pronounce this or that?
Sure.
And then I'll remind them, I try to establish that very cordial relationship right off the bat. If I'm saying something wrong, feel free to jot something down, tap me on the shoulder, whatever. I want to get it right. That's my primary goal. And if I'm saying it wrong, I don't want you guys leaving the parking lot going, gosh, 45 times he said his name wrong. Well, it could have only been 44 if you had let me know after the first one, So, and I know sometimes fans don't have access to the booth and that kind of stuff, but if it's at all possible, I know it's our goal that we want to get it right.
Yeah.
There have been times where I take out my phone and I'll actually record a coach saying a kid's names because I know I'll talk to him and I'll walk away and be like, oh, wait, how do you pronounce that?
Yeah.
But
That's a great idea.
My all-time
That's a good point.
my all-time favorite name, he was a soccer player from Marquette High School up in Chesterfield, okay? Shrarim Zazenhaus. Okay,
Nice.
Shrarim. His mom was from India and his dad was from Germany, and so I was going through the pronunciation checks, and apparently, and their fans told me, and they started applauding when I introduced him. He was in the starting lineup, and so they were like, "You're the only PA announcer, including the Marquette PA announcer, who's ever gotten his name right in 4 years."
Wow.
Nice.
I'll never forget that name.
Well, gentlemen, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. Mike, you may have on the college level when you're trying to get names, when roster names. I have found it's better to go to the assistant than the head coaches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because there are times when the head coaches have no idea how to pronounce.
I know that
name.
always. I'm like, you spend a lot of time with this kid,
right?
You know.
And so your best bet, if you're doing games on collegiate level, go to the assistants.
Yeah.
They have it locked down a lot better than. And the funny thing is, we'll have. Say for example, Jefferson College volleyball, you'll have a mix of local kids, some Eastern European kids, and some kids from South America. So, and I love doing the South American names, because they roll off the tongue. The pronunciation is beautiful.
Right.
It's a little harder with the Eastern European names, but we have a coach who's from Eastern Europe. And even she doesn't know a lot sometimes, so I always go to the assistant, So, but yeah, I do the same thing with the crowd. I'll literally open up the press box window, and there'll be fans, and I'm like, hello, if they're there early, would you mind helping? Oh, sure, they always help out.
And establishing that partnership early on keeps them from screaming at you from the stands.
Absolutely.
See, he's already reading way down the road because he knows I'm going to be yelling from the stands. Hey, buddy!
Now you're going to have a heckler.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's why I invited you to join me that night. Right?
I might have to.
Well, a while ago, Northwest played up at Howell Central in lacrosse.
Yeah.
And I also do lacrosse games. And so I had messaged you saying, you should have come up and we could have done a duet PA.
Yeah. See, and
it's all good, though.
And honestly, I really don't think – I love it. My day job, this, I absolutely love doing this. And I had no clue that when I took this venture, a few years ago, I think it's 4, 5, 6 years ago, I mean, I never realized I would have this much fun doing this.
Oh, yeah.
I have so much fun that people make fun of me because I show up so early.
Right.
But I take my pad up there. I proofread everything that Coach Taggart gives me to read. He's usually already got the clock going, so we're good there. But I show up early, and I'll go over everything that I have like 10 times.
Right.
Okay, I'll miss this. And the thing about the names, I know I've messed up quite a few, and I do my best to get all the pronunciation correct, write it down, jot a million different notes, and sure enough, I'll go to read it, and it's number 47 on the tackle.
Right.
If people that have listened to me know enough that if I go real quick, KROMER on the tackle, number 47, first and 10, they'll look up like, yeah, you messed up that name. That's why you went so fast and then down in distance and that stuff. But it is. But I don't think people realize, and I think only this tribe, if you will, realize how much fun that this is to do this type of stuff. I wouldn't give it up.
You don't do it for the money. You do it for the kids.
Absolutely.
And
whoa, you guys get paid? Or?
It's impossible. Well, reimbursed in different ways. You'll get there eventually. But
you're still doing your internship, right?
Yeah, that's right. But you cannot do what we do and not get emotionally invested in the athletes. And get to know them. And, at the high school level, you're with them at least 4 years. And I do, like, middle school sports as well sometimes, especially football, 7th and 8th grade. So I've had these kids. We had a kid on our Legion team. We were talking after his final game on the Legion team. He's a freshman in college. It's like, I've watched you play now for 7 years. And this is it's impossible not to get involved with these kids and cheer them on, not necessarily behind the mic. My mantra is always, I want to be informative, a little entertaining, but above all accurate. And you're doing it for the kids. You're doing it for the parents. The parents love to hear their kids' names. They love to hear them, pronounced correctly.
Right.
But it's a blast.
It's fun until you have somebody throwing stuff at the press box. Hey, it's Smith, not Smythe. Come on, what is your problem? So with all that being said, what does anybody? You guys have like a favorite moment that has happened? Whether you just couldn't stop laughing, or
I don't know as far as laughing, but I definitely have. I would say top 3 memories.
Yep.
Okay. Howell Central, and I don't know if your schools do this, but in collaboration with the Football Jamboree, they also have a fall sports event where they have all the teams of all the fall sports teams. They come out on the track. I'm playing like the Olympic theme usually, and I introduce all the teams. The teams break off eventually, and they go do. They do have some fun competitions within the teams and stuff like that. In years past, they've had some bounce houses. We've had some food trucks and everything like that. It's all, and that leads up that night to the football jamboree.
Gotcha.
Always been a fun, nice event. where I'm going with this is that my daughter, who is will be a sophomore this year at Missouri Baptist University, when she was in high school at Howell Central, played on the freshman softball team. And so to introduce her as part of the softball team, I mean, I'm getting chills right now. That will always be number one for me. And my son will be a freshman at Howell Central this upcoming year, which one of the really awesome things about that, Howell Central has a sports management club for kids. Oh, wow. And they get to be involved in game day operations and stuff like that, host visiting or greet visiting teams, officials, and whatnot. My son's going to be involved in that. That's going to be really cool because more or less he'll be kind of a colleague on those game nights. You know?
Right.
That'll be really special.
That's really cool.
That's number one. Number two, very good friend of mine. His son graduated about 4 or 5 years ago from Zumwalt West High School. And his senior year, he was a pitcher for the Jaguars up there. They went to the the Class 6 championship game in baseball. And I was announcing that game out at Carshield Field. So a very close, relation there. And then aside from personal connections, I think my favorite moment all time was announcing the Chaminade basketball team back in 2017 with Jason Tatum.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys. And it was funny. I always tell people this. This was Tatum's last high school game. And we all knew, he was going to Duke and probably spending 1 year there, okay? And the first quarter, I was like, I don't see what's so special. But I looked down at the stat sheet. In the first quarter alone, he had 16 points. I was like, oh, wow. He ended up with like over 40. In that game, he had hit a fadeaway three-pointer. And I'm like, high school kids aren't supposed to hit fadeaway three-pointers.
Right.
And then he was inbounding the ball underneath the offensive bucket, and he threw it off an opposing player, got it, and then just dunked it. And I was like, wow. So those are my top three favorite moments of announcing.
Nice. Tim, what do you got?
I'd have a real hard time putting my finger on specific moments. But for me, it is all about the connections that I've been able to make with students. And I know you'll all agree with this, but watching young athletes grow, not only as athletes on the field or on the court, but watching them grow as young men and women, and the things that they've learned from losing, the things that they've learned from winning, the teamwork that you see, you get to watch these kids grow up right before your eyes. And you mentioned, having a connection with these kids for 4 years. And similar to what you're saying, Mike, my kids are in the heart of it right now also. My daughter's about to be a senior, and announcing their names on Friday nights or on Saturday mornings or whatever it might be has been very, very special for me. I will say that this year, as we were going through our senior nights at the end of each season, I contacted a colleague of mine and said, just so you know, I will not be doing senior night next year because my daughter is going to be a senior, and I will be an emotional mess. And he said, oh, come on, you're a professional. And I said, I am a professional, but I'm a dad first.
Right.
And I'm also a big softie. I don't know if I should have said that on the air, but I'm a big softie when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I have already made arrangements. I will announce that game, but when it comes to reading those sheets for that senior night, obviously, I'm going to be an emotional mess. But I'll tell you what brought it up for me was doing senior nights this year with kids that I've known for several years. I'm in no way at all related to you. I've never had you in a class. I think we've said hi at lunch a few times. But, man, I'm emotional about you moving on to the next step because you grow, you build such a connection with these kids.
Right.
So I'd have a hard time putting my finger on anything specific, but that is by far my favorite part of it, is making those connections with kids and, kids that you would never have an opportunity to even talk to going, hey, did you hear what I did with your name on Friday night when when you made that touchdown or whatever it was? Oh yeah, that was so cool, and and it's just a fun opportunity. But yeah, I'd have a real hard time putting my finger on any specifics.
Jeff, how about you?
Well, I think it's fun when teams have gone to state and won. We've been fortunate enough at R7 in the 10, 11 years since the school's been in existence. I guess we've had state track and field teams, softball teams. This last season, our football team went to the Final Four. Our baseball team went to the Final Four this spring, and to know those kids and see that, how long they've been together and how much dedication and hard work they put in, that's an important part of it. But it's really more, as far as being invested in kids, watching them grow, as Tim said, watching them develop, having that relationship. And for me, taking it a step farther, what I wanted to do when I started my media company, and I'm not trying to plug anything here, but Ray feels the same way. Our primary goal is to shine a light on these kids. I can't speak for how it is in Jefferson County, but I know that in the past in Jefferson County, it was really hard to get these kids enough coverage and exposure. Now, I know what technology is today and the ability for coaches to find players and whatnot, but it was really important. Part of my mission is to shine a light on these kids, and that's always been part of what I've wanted to do. And if it helps them down the road get a scholarship, I don't care where they're going to school, because I'm a parent. I know what that's like. I had one child that had a full scholarship, and even in having a full scholarship, there's a ton of ancillary costs that go along with that, and one who didn't. So I know what that's like for parents. And I know Ray feels the same way, and Ray will back me up on this. We've had kids that have been offered scholarships because of what coaches have seen on games that we've broadcast on live stream STL. And to me, there's no greater reward than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I do what I do from any of the hats that I wear.
See, and it's cool because that's it. And I wasn't expecting you guys to, as far as it makes a lot of sense, because I'm also a football coach in our Junior Lions program. So a lot of these kids, I've had relationships. I watch them grow. I coach some of them. So Northwest graduating football seniors this year was my first 8th grade team. So I'm in a similar boat as you. So my son is currently going to be he's at MOBAP right now for a football camp. But on Friday nights, I'm the dad. You're watching your son trying to be a dad, but you're also doing the job that you're getting paid for.
Right. Yeah.
And I've told my wife many a times when we've gone to away games, when I've tried to plug out the awful away announcer, usually, and I said to my wife, I said, I truly hope he understands how much I love watching him play football, because I played football.
Right.
And to see him play for Northwest High School like I played for Northwest High School, it just – but here's my point to this. I feel horrible when I have to say his name, because I feel like there's a spotlight on him. And then everybody goes, oh, yeah, it's your kid. But I know I shouldn't feel that way, because he's doing his job on the field. He's doing what he's coached to do. But the inner job portion, I feel horrible. And I actually had a parent say to me one time, like, dude, that's your kid.
Sure.
Say it and be proud.
Right, absolutely.
And then I listen to it, and I'm like, yeah, I should. But I'm like, man, I don't want to put anything on it. You know what I'm saying? But it's weird. On senior night, I have no idea. So how Northwest does it, we have our blow-up helmet. They walk across the field. It's a beautiful walk. And I will put, and I've said it on numerous episodes of my podcast, nothing against anybody else's atmosphere, stadium, we have a beautiful entrance. We have a long, it's just, if you think about it in picture, a long asphalt driveway. You see the kids walking down with holding hands on EMS night. We have fire trucks there, the lights. And I'm in the box, and I'm just like, somebody find me a uniform. I want to go with them. But you get involved, wrapped up. You think, oh, I wonder if, this kid's that, you know all those kids, and it's so much rush of emotion to do it. And it's just like, those are the moments right there when, A, your kid's there, B, you absolutely love that atmosphere on Friday night. You can't beat it. But it's Northwest, not Hillsboro. You know what I mean? So what I want to look for with this question here is an embarrassing, because we've all had them, and if you say you're perfect, I know you're lying, or a funny moment that has happened in your career, any sport that whether you just flubbed something, you had a hot mic, what was it?
Prepared a list of embarrassing moments ahead of time. No.
Jeff, you got to have something. Give me something.
Oh, I've been the worst part is if you do a slip up, and if you have friends in the booth like mine, they'll try to get you to slip up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
friends, right?
Friends, right. There's been more than one time where I've announced that a team has won the coin toss.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of the coin toss.
Yeah.
What I run into a lot at a small school, but I'm sure everybody runs into it, is mixing up siblings. You've had siblings come through. So last year I had a sibling named Katrin Couture, who's a senior. Her younger sister, Peyton Couture, is a sophomore. And during a basketball game this year, I referred to Peyton as Patron Couture.
Nice.
Okay, things of that nature. That happens a lot. Funniest thing that ever happened was in a middle school football game. 7th graders. It's very good. It's funny to watch 7th grade kids progress as the season goes. The first game is just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But a punt formation for the Blue Jays, and the punter took 3 steps up, and the up man in the back, he punted it directly between the young man's legs.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. And young man went down in obvious discomfort. He was down for a little bit.
It was a media timeout.
Well, the young man, and I'm gonna go ahead and name them because this is part of the whole story. Because I've had 3 of these young men, and they're all great young men. The last name was Schnitzler. Okay, and the young man that this happened to, his last name is Schnitzler. So therefore, anytime anyone has an injury of that nature on the football field in the booth, we always refer to him as being Schnitzlered. So
Hit him in the schnitzler.
he hit him right in the schnitzler.
Wow.
So that's probably the funniest, the running jokes, the kind of things you do behind the scenes and stuff like that. I saw a high school coach get kicked out of a JV basketball game, a girls' game one time, because he stood up and he wasn't even answering. He was on the bench, and the head coach of the JV team was talking to the official, and he just happened to stand up to kind of stretch at the time. And some coaches are really, or some officials are really tough. You know who this is. This is Riley Blair.
Oh.
And Riley just got up to stretch a little bit, didn't even say a word. And some officials are very, very strict about you're not supposed to have 2 coaches on their feet at one time.
Right.
And the funny thing is, he was ejected. Well, he has to coach the varsity team, so he really had nowhere to go. But either the bus or the locker room.
Right.
So it's fun in college, too, if you ever do college baseball or softball and a player gets ejected. And if it's from the visiting team, they have to go sit on the bus for hours at a time. Yeah. I had a kid 2 years ago. I think the catcher, he was ejected in the 2nd inning for arguing balls and strikes with the umpire. So the AD has to officially walk them out, and he had to sit there. That game went 5 hours, extra inning game. Then you had another 3.5. I mean, that kid was on the bus 8 hours at least.
Wow.
I'd like to say he had plenty of time to get his homework done, but he was probably sleeping most of the time.
He was smart, yeah.
Just things like that.
Yeah. Like what you got?
Nothing quite like that. I would say the one moment that, and my son and I always laugh at this because he has always gone out to games with me. I was doing a baseball game over at HOWELL Central on a wireless mic. I always end my announcements after the game's completion, thanks for coming, blah, blah, blah. Please drive home safely. I was doing it on the wireless mic, and as I was more or less signing off, the microphone ran out of battery. So I said, please drive home safely, but what they heard was, please drive home. And I was like, man, that would just sound so rude.
Yeah, why are you telling people what to do, man?
Get out of here, So that's the one thing that always sticks out in my mind with that.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Tim, what do you got?
I had a real problem as soon as I started in Hillsboro with confusing mascots or confusing school names with the schools that I announced in North County. So, and one of them that always got me was in North County, we would always play the Pattonville Pirates. Green and white, great tradition, a nice rivalry with Hazelwood Central, Hazelwood West. I came down here and very frequently would slip and during a Perryville game call them the Pattonville Pirates because they're also the Pirates. Yep. They're also wearing green and white. And, also the Hazelwood Central Hawks and the Hillsboro Hawks. That Hazelwood just got ingrained in my DNA there for a while. So pretty frequently, and just when you think that people aren't listening, go ahead and make a mistake, and
Right.
they'll
Oh,
let
yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You will have about 1,000 eyes looking right at you because you've just said the wrong school name, and you know.
Oh yeah, I've been in that boat where you just brain fart and you just you just do the wrong. One of my funniest moments was in my early days. It was my time at Windsor, and I'll leave the names out of it. But so our mom's club had went around and got sponsorships, raised money for the program, doing the good stuff that you're supposed to do. So obviously we're all provided a script, in the beginning of the night. Hey, read this, read this, read this. By the time it reaches me, I assume everybody that's supposed to has read it or okayed it or approved, however you want to put it.
Right.
So doing my pregame. Now, when my days at Windsor, I had Cloyd. He was my spotter. Fantastic gentleman, 80 years old. Binoculars, that's all he would just do, sit up here and everything. Fantastic. So I read what I was going to read that night. And I read it in the ad, and I'm like, there's no way that somebody approved this. Okay? So I'm not going to read the tagline because I don't want to get fired from my non-paying gig. But I'll piece it together. It was a muffler company, and their tagline was something, something, something. So the night's going on, and I start to read it, right? And I'm reading, doing my job, blah, 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 timeout. So obviously everybody's listening to what the announcer's saying. So I read it, blah, 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 read what I said. And I knew what was coming. So I kind of stepped back after I read it, and the two gentlemen, Cloyd and the other clock operator, just starts laughing. No way you. Now it's hard for the listeners to understand. I just don't want to read. I don't want to say what I said. I turn to my right out of the press box, and I see the current AD at the time turn around and look at me, and you would have thought.
Yeah.
And I stepped back, and I thought, well, this job was fun. But then I start thinking, well, you approved it. You gave it to me. I should be good. Sure enough, now he was a bigger gentleman, but just like myself. But by the time he got up there, he says to me, "Why did you read that?" I said, "You gave it to me to read. It was from the Mom's Club. Don't read it anymore."
Okay. It's like that scene in The Anchorman where they're talking about Will Ferrell, and there's like, he will read anything that's
you
on
read
the
what's in the
teleprompter.
prompter.
Yes.
and that's and I wanted to say that, but I felt horrible. But it was a catch-22 because I was like, well, you didn't do your job, But I did my job. I read what I was supposed to, and it's on the sheet right there. And
You actually get announcements that are typed up?
oh, absolutely.
They're not scribbled on a piece of yellow pad?
Well, it depends on who it's coming from.
Oh, okay.
If it's somebody saying, "Hey, wish Ashley a happy birthday," blah blah, and he read it, and that's actually the next thing. Are we good? Do you need a break or anything? Are we good? Absolutely. So I really wish I could say the tagline that because it's funny, but yet it's one of those. Ooh,
You'll have to text us.
We'll once the hot mics are gone, we'll do that. but and jump right into it. Pet peeves of this position. I complain and I drive myself crazy sometimes. And I know the number one of all of us, I can promise you, is non-numerical order rosters.
Yep.
And or wrong rosters. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've
absolutely.
had both. I mean, and probably more of the rosters that are not in numerical order.
Yes.
But, yeah, definitely I have. You're right. I've gotten wrong rosters in the past, too.
Do you have a spotter?
Yeah.
Do you have a
for the
spotter?
varsity
No, I do not.
football.
No spotter?
No spotter.
I do for varsity football.
you?
But
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I have a spotter for.
So us three were operating on our own. Plus, so what I would do, not to cut you up, be like 55, and then you're like,
Right. Oh, I know.
ding, 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 55. Mike Stoff, and you're just like, how difficult is it?
It is.
But it is.
What I usually do for a varsity football game is I'll go to the Post-Dispatch website or even the football team's website a lot of times and see, especially their skill position players, and then also their leading tacklers and stuff like that. And I'll type up my own separate spot sheet that'll make quick reference if I know I'm going to be calling a name a lot that night.
Right.
And then you do get the plays where a player who is not among their regular players, and then you do have to quickly search for it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
My worst situation with that was I was announcing in a tournament situation. It was basketball, and I knew that as I started, I could tell by the environment around me that I was missing names. I was saying incorrect names, incorrect numbers. There was something that wasn't vibing. I'm reading the roster that was given in front of me, and the visiting coach steps over and says, "You have last year's roster."
Oh, no.
Wow.
Oh, no.
I went,
Wow.
well,
Wow.
again, it's what was handed to me.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of this year's roster? No, I'm sorry, I don't. Okay, well, we're going to roll with it.
Yeah.
You know, they heard a lot of number 22s and number 44s that night. And, you know, as you get through the game, by the time the third and fourth quarter happens, you've heard enough people around you.
Yeah.
You know, you've started to kind of get an idea of who's who. You know, you're talking to your scorebook guy, you're talking to everybody around you, trying to piece together. And it goes back to, you know, we want to do this for the kids, but if you don't help us help the kids, you know, if you don't give us the tools necessary to get those names out there, it makes
People
it tough.
are frequently want to point the finger at the guy with the mouth behind the microphone, and
Right.
they have no idea what's involved in that process. For me, and part of it is because I have time. You guys have real jobs that you get to hold down. I guess I have the luxury of more time. Call it luxury. I for a Friday night football game by Tuesday or Wednesday, I am scouring either STL high school sports, or I am going to my athletic our athletic director, their assistant. She's very good about hounding these schools to send me rosters ahead of time. I'll do like Mike. Sometimes if I don't have time, I'll just take that numerical roster and I'll just highlight some of the players that I know are going to get a lot of touches, that we're going to call their name a lot. If I get a roster that's not numerical, sometimes I'll just take the time and go through and I'll put it in numerical order. And I'll throw it in Excel and resort it or whatever. You have situations where a kid will wear one number on the road, one number at home.
Right.
You'll have a situation we had last year for football. St. Pius, Ray, Michael Argana wore a completely different number, and nobody knew who he was, not only on the live stream telecast, but for me, when I was doing the game in the booth, I had kid's not on the roster. I don't know who he is. Now, by the fourth quarter, we figured out it was one of their better players just by process of elimination. It's like, he's kind of big. He's okay. That's probably that guy. That's probably Michael Argana. But it's stuff like that. But that's a pet peeve. And then for me, the other biggest pet peeve are non-contrasting uniform numbers.
Oh, my goodness. I think I'm putting that above non-numerical rosters.
Yeah.
For football especially, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, the college level is probably even worse when you look at D1 through D3 football, and I mean it is horrible. Myself, the rosters are there, but unfortunately, I'm there to also entertain myself at times too. So if somebody doesn't have, if I know it's the wrong name, Billy Ray Valentine. There's a lot of Billy Ray Valentines on the field. Hey, 36, gain of 5, Billy Ray Valentine.
What I always like to do in my head is if I don't know the name that goes with the number, I'll just say, okay, who was number 5 in just whatever sport it was? Albert Pujols. I'm going to call you Albert Pujols.
Ray, if you can patch in here, tell them what we do on live stream when we have a player, what their name is if it's a boy.
Well, we've just adopted the name Max Power.
Oh yeah.
And Min Power if there's two, and then Maxine Power.
Right.
If it's a girl. So there you go.
So that's how we take care of that situation.
So now, though, but you just let the secret out of the bag. So whenever you guys are doing something, people know.
Well, that's okay. They'll know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Something's
Say it again.
Oh, say it again. He missed a. Oh, me. I was just echoing what.
The people are in. They know the secret. The secret's out of the bag. You guys got to come up with new code names now. I got a whole list on my phone, but it's probably not clean. I like.
Would you please?
I like Mike's idea though. Coming up with some obscure hockey player that played for the Blues back in the '80s or something.
Well, having worked in radio down in the area, Mike Reeves. Okay, I worked with Mike Reeves down at B104 and KFMO down in Park Hills. We were doing a basketball game one night. I believe it was Bismarck versus Central from Park Hills. Okay, and I just don't know what teams down in that area are good at this point in history, okay? Back in the day, in the mid-'90s, Central had a very good girls basketball team, and Bismarck just did not. Okay,
That's still the case.
Okay, so that night, Mike and I were broadcasting from the T.J. Foulon Fieldhouse there in Park Hills. Beautiful, one of my all-time favorite high school facilities,
Great
hands
facility.
down. The game was out of hand like 30 seconds after tip-off, okay? And so Mike and I started kind of entertaining ourselves during the broadcast, and we actually got a few phone calls that people were not happy about this, which I can understand, actually, that we started kind of more or less entertaining ourselves, inserting professional names for those numbers. And looking back, is that something that probably not, but we still have fun doing it.
You got a laugh out of it.
Yeah, we did.
Sometimes you do get to that point where it's like you want to kind of entertain yourself, and hopefully you're entertaining your listeners or viewers in our case sometimes. But getting back to the numbers thing now, if I remember correctly from last year, there were going to be some changes in Misha for all sports and contrasting numbers, and I believe this is the cutoff year, where this is maybe the last year they can use those non-contrasting uniforms. So hopefully things will get better, but
I'm hoping too.
It's not just the colors; it's the fonts. Everybody wants to have the collegiate fonts and different things, or the the fading out of the colors, and it just makes our job more difficult, which in turn makes it harder for us to shine a light on the players, because it's harder for us to recognize who they are. So if Max Power scores 3 touchdowns, we can't. And it's hard for us to read what his number is.
Did Homer Simpson change his name to Max Power one time? Am I right?
I
want to say that was on an episode of The Simpsons, because there was something where
I'm gonna blame Matt Schutte for that.
Matt Schutte,
Matt Schutte, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It sure does. Thanks, Matt Schutte.
So hopefully that'll change. But here again, and then in turn, then the player doesn't get recognition, so the parents, I had one team from Southeast Missouri. I can't remember who it was exactly. Their uniforms were horrible. They were white, and then the letters were almost white with just a little red outline around them. And I asked one of their
shows, Hayti.
Man, it might have been Hayti. I'm not sure, but I asked the folks up in the booth. It's like, help me with some of these numbers and uniforms and roster and all that stuff. And the lady just apologized. She says, I know they're horrible. We're stuck with these for another couple of years, and I don't know who's in charge. They should let us be in charge of picking out uniforms, guys.
that uniforms, and if there's ever a press box being designed, I want input on that.
Yes.
Have at least a portable bathroom in there.
Look what I just wrote down right there. Bathroom breaks.
Right, because, well, in fact, I've got to go right now. I know all of us have been in that situation.
Yeah.
We're just like, okay, come on half, or come on end of the game. We've got to go so bad.
But the problem is if it's not in the press box and you have to go for like Northwest,
the line.
It's a good 100 yards away. And by the time you get to the stands, hey, Mike, hey, Mike, come here.
Right.
By the time you get to the bottom, 2 minutes done off the clock, you done said hi to 30
Hold
people.
up a sign saying, don't talk to me.
Go
I'm going to the bathroom.
I got to go potty. Leave me alone.
Vin Scully had his own personal restroom outside the press box. But other than that,
Oh, wow.
none of us
Hey,
can.
give me something. Give me a bucket.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, is like bathroom. I hate to coincide these two, but the bathroom, and plus we get a little hungry while we're up there.
Yeah, well,
you don't really have time to go and go get something. You got to do it before the game.
Yeah, I always, because I don't want to be in that position of being hungry.
Right.
Honestly, I could deal with having to go to the bathroom better than hunger. Neither one of them is comfortable at all.
Right.
But I always do, well, not always, but most of the time I'm bringing my own food.
Right.
At Howell Central, though, especially on the varsity football games, somebody's coming in checking to see if we need something to eat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, anytime I get hungry, I immediately look at who is selling their specialty items for the evening.
Or just just use that microphone and just say, "Hey, can I get something to eat up here?"
Yeah.
Right. Hey, Ray, can you give me the camera for a minute?
Yeah, you're on.
If Mr. Schott and Mr. Taggart are watching right now, I just want to let you guys know that the athletic directors in the past, and will continue to do so for Jefferson R7.
I know where you were going with this.
They will deliver our snacks to the press box and beverages for us so that we don't encounter those situations.
Not only that, they give us, as Livestream STL, a small little cooler full of soda, candy, food, whatever we want. So
exactly.
Setting the bar, boys. That's what I'm all going to say.
These gentlemen are working hard for your school, and they obviously you can't go to the restroom for them, but you could help cut down on those trips to the concession stand.
Well, I will tell you that we are very well taken care of in the booth, because as soon as I mention the slightest little thing, those treats will start pouring in. So,
there you go.
Hey, do you mind reading this for us? We're selling Krispy Kreme donuts. Well, of course I don't mind.
I got to taste it.
However, there is a small fee for that.
Right.
Or, I mentioned earlier our band boosters having all the fried goodies, and I'll say, I assume that those fried Oreos are delicious. I have not yet tasted them. I hope to taste them at some point, and I have no problem saying this over
Baiting
the PA.
the hook.
Oh, absolutely.
Gentlemen, have you ever had the privilege of hosting a trivia night?
I have.
I
actually do in August. I
got
will.
one
My
coming
first
up.
one. Yes.
So here's a tip for you from a guy who's hosted a lot of trivia nights. And Mike, I'm going to assume Mike, have you ever hosted a trivia night?
He's away
Yeah,
from
so
the
here's
mic.
the trick.
Mike is away from the mic.
Prior to, or even during the evening, because everybody brings food, and, 80% of the fun of a trivia night is bringing all the food and drink and people, the fellowship and things of that nature. Oh, yeah, it's for a good cause, but that's secondary. But I will go around, cruise around in my little motorized chair here, and I'll say, you know what? I've been through this entire place, all of these tables. You have the best pick, the best buffet of anybody here. Oh, can we fix you a plate?
That sounds like a salesman right there.
Right.
I'm telling you, that's the go-to.
Oh, yeah.
So,
No, I have hosted a trivia night, and I got to get going here pretty soon, actually.
Sure.
But I hosted a trivia night. I had so much fun doing that. It was a blast.
It's a good time.
I've done horse races and mouse races, but I'll be doing my first trivia night August 14th when I do that. But
yeah,
so
it's a lot of fun.
When you guys get down to it, as far as we talked about what your responsibilities are, what kind of who sets the mood for the music? Is it on you? Is it a pre-selected stuff? Because I know my situation at Northwest is we have pre-approved, pre-selected stuff that Coach Taggart has gotten to take care of. That way, nobody's put in the fire as far as inappropriate stuff or like that. Do you guys have the luxury of doing your own type
why
of
don't you
stuff?
ask Mike first, because he's got to get going.
Yeah, I do have to get going, but it's all me, at least at the high school level. It's all me, which I love. And I just make playlists from Spotify here.
Gotcha.
And then also for just some of the pregame stuff for football games, as well as basketball, go in. And again, we've talked about modern technology. It's made it so easy for wannabes like us, more or less, right?
Right.
Where we can go in and mix music and stuff like that. And so in fact, I was just running through, I was thinking through today, about what do I really want to do as far as a pregame intro at Howell Central this year. We've always used the song, Kenny Chesney's song, "The Boys of Fall." And in fact, I heard Kenny Chesney on the radio the other day talking about the significance behind "The Boys of Fall," and I'm like, man, I would love to get the audio of that and play that. I've searched a little bit to try to find that and try to use it as part of the pregame. And that's part of it actually that I really enjoy is putting together the music.
Me too. That's one of my favorite parts of the job.
I'll tell you what I do, and I've enjoyed this also. I get a list from the seniors. In fact, I met this morning with one of our football seniors, and I said, "Now you guys understand, you give me a list of about 50 songs, 10 or 15 might make the cut because you guys understand. There are certain things I can and can't play from the booth, and I can do my best to find a clean version of whatever it is that you're interested in. But it's another way to connect with those guys. Just a few weeks ago, I was at a football practice, and as we were wrapping things up, I said, "Seniors over on me." And they went, "Whoa, we're seniors!" And it was the first time that
so they called them a senior,
right?
Yeah.
So they had to jump into action when they heard seniors. But that's been a fun thing for me, across all of our teams. Hey, if I'm going to be there that night, let's play some music.
Right.
Do you guys have a playlist? And then I get pretty obsessive about combing through that playlist, and you know, and I want to make sure that it's all on the up and up, and we're not offending anybody and that kind of stuff. So I let them know up front. You'll give me a ton of songs. I will use what I can, and then we'll fill in the blanks with some stuff from some previous team or previous seasons, that kind of stuff.
But Mr. Arnold, this is a clean version. Yeah, it's a clean version, but it's still talking about drive-by. It's still talking about drugs. It's still talking about, but you're taking the cuss words out, but that's only half of the battle.
Well, and sometimes when you take the cuss words out, you're left with more silence than you are with music.
Yeah. I see, and that's a lot of trust, because they were making fun of me because I had a lot of instrumental stuff. They're like, Spank, how are we supposed to get excited listening to boom, 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 boom?
I'm not familiar with that song. Could you do that again?
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. And I'm like, look, I don't want to get fired.
Sure.
I don't want to get fired from it, but. Hey, that's what I got from you. What else am I missing as far as a PA standpoint that people would not know behind the scenes of what goes on?
I tell you what, and again, I got to get out of here. I'm going to end with this here. One of the things that I always hate is the end of a season. You know why? It's those conversations and just, again, the relationships within the press box. You know, talking about spotter for football, somebody running the clock and everything like that. And you're seeing each other on a fairly regular basis, you know, and you know, at least for me, whether it's football, soccer, you know, stuff like that, you're working the game day staff with a lot of people, and I always hate it when the season comes to an end, because you're like, it's gonna be a while before I see these people, and I always tell some people, like the other night, we had a rain delay out at Carshield Field in O'Fallon, and those conversations during the downtime, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, whether we're talking about The Simpsons, we're talking about what's the best local pizza, stuff like that. I mean, just so many different conversations that go on that at the end of a season, I'm like, man, I'm going to miss hanging out with these guys.
That camaraderie is so important. Just like locker room camaraderie is important for the players.
Right. So, hey, I got to end on that because I got to get out of here, drive back up to St. Charles County. Mike, it was good seeing you again.
All good. Thank you, sir.
It was nice meeting you, Tim.
Nice to meet you.
I want to get together with you and listen to you read cards. That's all right.
We'll do that. We'll do that sometime.
Read me something. Hey, how to install?
We'll do that sometime.
By Mike KROMER.
But this was a lot of fun talking about the nuts and bolts of it.
Absolutely. Exactly. We need to get together and powwow it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
guys. Thanks, Matt KROMER.
Take care, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just wanted to follow up on what Mike was talking about, the music. It is a level of trust after a while that the administrators, develop, hopefully. And I run, my own. I do the exact same thing, and I obsess like these guys do over playlist and music and moving this song here. But I also use a program called Sports Sound Pro that loads onto my laptop. So I run everything off the laptop. It goes through a mixer and then goes over through the PA. And it's just a ton of fun. I use Adobe Audition. You can use free programs like Audacity that can basically do the same thing.
Right.
And you can mix and match your own stuff, make your mashups of songs, and do all. And I get a big kick out of that.
Yeah. Well, so give me the story though. And you mentioned it, and plug it away of your media. How did that see the light of day for you? Because I don't want to say I want to imitate it, but I kind of got some ideas that I have as well, but I always wanted to ask you, where did Blue Tiger Media come from?
Blue Tiger Media came out of a situation where I was working PA. I had a background in radio. People knew that, and people said, hey, I know you have your own equipment, your own PA equipment. Got a wedding coming up on so-and-so, or would you be our trivia night host? To do this, bring your equipment, et cetera, et cetera. Do you know anybody that can put together a trivia package with all the questions, PowerPoint? Say, well, yeah, I can do that. I have time to do that. And then it just kind of evolved from there. And, I run I have a Facebook, Twitter, and a blog social media presence that I use to promote that. And it keeps me busy. It gives me a voice, and it's led to great contacts with people, not only in other forms of media, but the parents, the players, and so it just everything that's happened to me since 2009, just one thing has just led to another. So I'm
I was
very
always
blessed.
curious of that. Like I said, and I think when we do this, I'm always looking to get better. So any time that I can pick people's, like I'm telling you, I gotta listen to something on the way home. Otherwise I'm gonna be thinking of him talking all night.
That's
with
why Mike is the gold standard here in our area.
It's
really
fantastic. But that's like, I love picking your brain, and I know there's a group on Facebook for all of us where we all kind of just sit in there, and it's not at least I don't take it that way that somebody's, well, I do this or I announce for these guys. Or, hey, and I've reached out to you many a time saying, hey, man, I'm in a pinch, or do you have this, or you know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of cool of people in our industry that do that to help each other out.
Right.
And even if you are a Hillsboro Hawk, I just know.
You use the phrase you want to learn from us. I use the word I want to steal from you guys.
Right.
Well, honestly, it is, but that's the highest form of compliment. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
I'm sure there's stuff that you do. I like, and that's the whole thing. You put it together to see what your fans and what your player. Well, I shouldn't say your players, but the school, the high school kids that you're calling.
Well, when you go to a different gym, and I get to go to a lot of different gyms in my capacity with Livestream STL, and that's how I got to listen to Tim. And I thought, wow, this guy's really good. And I start listening to him, and I go, you know what? He does that a certain way. That's not a bad idea. Maybe I should try that. And you learn, you pick up on those things. And
I haven't met anybody in the industry that's not willing to share.
Royalties, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We're all willing to help each other out, and when it comes down to it,
Right.
even if they are a Northwest Lion, it's about giving the kids the best experience.
See, it's back and forth.
It's
That's
back
what I
and
like. It's back and forth. I like.
Hey, I will tell you
Bingo. There you go.
something I wanted to mention to you,
Yes.
Mike. I actually, over the past few years, have called several Northwest games, both football and, not football, just basketball, I guess. But I'd visited Northwest when the Hawks came up there last year, and I always thought it's fun to get to know kids from other schools.
Mm-hmm.
I ran across a few guys that that played football and basketball, and even though they're from other schools, and I only see them once in a blue moon, after you see them play 3 or 4 times, you become a fan. I ran into one of your players was bagging my groceries at Schnucks one day.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I know you. And I know he was very creeped out. He thought, who is this weirdo who says he knows me, just like as quickly as possible getting me out of the store. But it's a good kid, and I've announced you on the basketball court. And, and then a few weeks later, he shows up at a tournament at Hillsboro High School, and I'm announcing, and I'm like, hey, buddy. And again, he's like, who's this creepy old man?
Do you remember who it was, by any chance?
I'm gonna miss his last name. Kenny
Angelis. Yes.
Kenny Angelis.
You can't
we
miss,
know Kenny.
You can't miss
Big Kenny.
Yeah.
I'm the president and founder of the Kenny Angelis fan club.
Yes.
I love that kid.
What a great kid.
Good kid.
How
tell
can
you
you not
another
like
one.
Kenny Angelis?
Another great kid from Northwest that I've kind of gotten to know, Andrew Linson.
Yes.
Ran across him. My son's a kicker, and Andrew was a kicker for you guys. And one of our very first lessons, we were there together. Andrew took my son under his wing and kind of showed him a few things. What a great kid!
He is a great human being.
And just fun. Even though I'm a Hawk and they're Lions, there's a place there for us to respect each other, and it's been fun watching some of those guys from other schools that you feel like you get to know them.
Yeah, you're right.
2 weeks ago, I'm at Walmart in Festus, and I go to check out, and there's this young man there. You just open the register, and I look at his name, and you remember names, and his first name was Cade. And I thought, okay, I know this name from somewhere. I know that's becoming a more popular. But I read his name. It's like I've announced this name somewhere before.
Yeah.
Right.
And I get to talk to this kid, and he is one of your kids, basketball kids at Hillsboro. I can't remember what his last name was, but he played, or it was on the JV team or something like that.
Right.
It's like, I know that name.
And that's the beauty of this industry. And I keep bringing it. It's just it's fun, and that's why I wanted to do this. I wanted to sit down with people that are in the industry and gives people a peek behind the mic, if you will, and just how much fun we have. Because what I tell you is also just when the microphones are off, boy, I'm telling you what, there's some conversations that we can have. So, But we started off with the Hillsboro versus Northwest. So just to remind, we got it August 27th. Northwest will come to the Borough to face the Hawks.
Yes, sir.
And the winner will have to wear, or the loser will have to wear the opposing person's team's shirt and make a post on Facebook
Post
say
on
that
social media.
they are a Northwest Lions fan for even if it's one day, and then we're going to get our eat on. We're both going to eat.
That's right. We'll get some.
I have a
get some
home game that
treats.
night. Otherwise, I would be there. But I don't know. Maybe it'll work out. Who knows? Ray hasn't released his schedule yet, but I don't know. Maybe he'll live stream the game.
And that's the other thing that I don't like about the thing is let's assume I don't have a kid. We don't have kids playing, but there's times where you're like, well, gosh, I want to go because Mr. Brandon Perry. I'm a huge fan of Brandon Perry of yours from a few years ago. I want to go listen to Jeff, or I want to go catch out Tim, or go check out Mike KROMER, or go to one of your college
hard during
games.
football season.
Yeah, it's difficult. You want to go around and like Coach Randy Green from Windsor baseball. He now does Windsor, PA. He took over when I left there, so you're always giving each other pats on the back, but you also want to go hear those guys. But then there's times where you go to, I won't say the school, Belleville, but there's certain schools that you don't like to, or it comes off bad. You're used to hearing yourself sometimes, and whenever, another incomplete pass or another 3 and out, that's the type of stuff that we don't need. But I think we all understand how that works. But
Absolutely.
gentlemen, I've enjoyed this. We got to
Yeah,
do this
it's been
again
fun.
after the football season.
I'm going to consider this part one of our
Part one.
conversation.
I think it's good, and I can't thank Ray enough from Livestream STL.
Yeah.
I mean, this has kind of been an awesome combo.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
All good. Please remember that you can always contact the show via email at thelionsdenpodcast32@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Spotify, and now Stitcher. I can't thank everyone enough for all their support. I really appreciate it. I thank Tim Arnold, Jeff Whitener, Mike KROMER. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us. It was fun.
Right on.
It's a blast.
Thank you, Chuck Norris.
Thank you, Chuck Norris. Wow, how about that? I like that. Hey, we just appreciate you being able to come out. We just kind of give you a little run through of what we do and everything. I just sit back, give it to you guys, and rock and roll.
You were in the
We just
rocking
kinda-
chair tonight,
Yes,
Ray.
I was totally fine with that. But we do have the coaches box coming up at 8 o'clock tonight, so we'll just throw that little plug in there. And if you haven't checked out Livestream STL, I know we got a lot of Lions Den's podcast folks. Check us out over at Livestream STL. We have Livestream STL and Livestream STL South. South is for the folks down this way, but check it out over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all those places. So, but we'll have the coaches box on Facebook and YouTube tonight. So, hope to see you then about 8 o'clock. And for all of us here at Livestream STL and the Lions 10 podcast, so long. We'll see you.